We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton alongside Dave McCann. You just heard in that open the name Jordan Brady, who is BYU's new basketball director of player development. I spoke with him one-on-one yesterday to discuss what the recruiting pitch is like from Kevin Young and the current staff, and what BYU players and current staff and roster are doing to embrace the honor code as something that could be a force for good pushing forward in the recruiting scheme. This is my one-on-one with Jordan Brady. Coach Brady, when did a position at BYU, and specifically as the director of player development, first hop onto your radar and then become a good, realistic fit for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with my relationship with Coach Young, we stay in touch pretty consistently. And so really the day that he got the job, the day that it was announced, we started talking about some possibilities and just kind of looking at what that role might look like. He really early on identified this role as something that he wanted to fill in the college space. And just kind of recognizing the need that he's recognized in professional basketball for somebody to be able to really unify the performance staff and all of these different elements of player development to try and maximize what we're getting out of these resources. And so as we continued to talk, the role just kind of evolved into this, and I'm super excited. So, I mean, when it actually became a reality and a good fit was probably a few weeks after we started talking about it. And then, we started to go through the formal interview process with Brigham Young University. And so shortly after that, everything was announced and finalized. So
obviously, a lot of what you do is built into your title. Not hard to get around player development, but let's talk about the specifics of what you are trying to do. Like what specifically is your day-to-day like now that you're new to this position?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, I'm really fortunate to be able to work with some very high-level professionals in their different areas of development. So I can just kind of run down the list. Obviously, we've got the on-court development, which is going to be the skill development and applying that stuff to, the in-game and system that Coach Young is putting in. Next would be the strength and conditioning part, where I'm working really closely with Coach Davey to make sure that what he's doing in the weight room complements what we're trying to accomplish on the court, and that what we're doing on the court also coordinates with what he's doing in the weight room, and really just bridging that gap with performance. Then there's working with the athletic training staff. So Rob Ramos, making sure that everybody's on the same page there, so that that's really just a lot of heavy communication and making sure that the players are getting the body maintenance that they need, and that everything that they're doing in the training room, again, fits in with what the plan is for the player. There's a nutritional element to that. We're fortunate to have a good nutrition team here at Brigham Young University. So again, just making sure that what the nutritionist is communicating to the player and those goals are in alignment with what we're doing in the weight room and the training room. And then another piece with that is working with Dr. Craig Manning, who I forgot to mention this, but I worked with Wiz in Milwaukee. So he was the assistant strength coach there for the Bucks when I was the coach of the Bucks G League team. And so we developed a good relationship there. And also working with Doc Manning, I worked with him with the Jazz doing draft workouts, and then also with the Bucks as he came on board the same time I did there in Milwaukee. And then the other element for that is the academic piece. So working with the academic advisors to just make sure that the guys are developing off the court as well. And then we're bringing in kind of like a social and community aspect to that as well. And I think we're going to be having Nate Austin, the director of basketball ops, will be heading that up. So really just coordinating with the leads of each of those departments, making sure that these guys are having a really well-rounded, holistic development plan that's all geared towards helping them become better basketball players, better student athletes, and just making sure that we're all on the same page.
So I want to go into specifically what you are watching from Kevin Young and the staff you involved in the recruiting pitch.
because everybody is like, whoa, this is the greatest recruiting class in BYU basketball history, and it's not close. How in the world are they doing this? So what can you tell us about what is unique to Kevin Young's recruiting pitch to these new aged and evolving athletes that are coming into the program?
Yeah. First of all, I would say I don't feel like it's so much a pitch. It's just the reality of the staff that coach has assembled. He's been able to put together a really well balanced coaching staff that has a lot of experience at different levels of basketball. He's made good on his commitment to make it a pro development program. I mean, everything that we do is essentially in line with what we've all learned at the professional level of basketball. And so when we're able to sit down with recruits, I don't feel like there's really much pitching going on at all. We really just show them the process. We show them the resources that we have, the knowledge base that we have. And it really is the reality that we've put together a staff that can really help these guys develop their game in a professional way. And whether they want to transition to the NBA, which some of our guys will absolutely have that opportunity, or maybe they're looking to play overseas, really just an opportunity to prepare themselves to play at that level of basketball.
The honor code has long been viewed as, and I'm just going to be forthright here, in the recruiting world, people have, especially opponents, have worked hard to say like, oh, sometimes you don't want to go play for BYU. Like they got an honor code. It's that's not for you. But it feels like this staff has just fully embraced it and promote it and are almost using it as a strength. So I would love for you, if you could, to summarize how that mindset has changed, because I'm hearing recruits talk about it, well, in ways where, and I'm summarizing, where they're saying, well, why would I want to do any of that stuff anyway? I care about ball, and like I care about getting better as a ball player. So how has the approach shifted there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I also agree. I think that the honor code does provide a level of strength with the recruiting base, because each of the teams that I've worked for professionally, and I know with Coach Young, with Coach Voigt, having really high character guys at the professional level matters. And so when you're evaluating guys for draft picks, when you're evaluating guys for free agency, making sure that you're bringing in the right character of guys that you want to have be a part of your culture has been a really big deal for the programs and the organizations that I've worked for. And so for me, it's just that at the college level. So professional teams want to know that guys are going to be able to commit to things off the court as well. That's a big part of being a pro. And for us to be able to sit down and talk with these recruits and let them know that there will be some additional commitments that they need to make outside of basketball, that will be a direct reflection on their ability to commit to basketball, I think has been a strength for us. And so being able to be upfront about the honor code, I think helps us to be able to find the guys that we really want to have and that we feel like we'll be able to coach and that will embrace the culture that we're building.
Well, the culture that you are building is all any fan wants to talk about, it seems like, for BYU right now, because it's been just so much fun to watch high-level recruits and high-level staff members such as yourself come in and surround Kevin Young. This is new territory, almost a new galaxy for BYU basketball. So with that said, what's your message to the fans right now about the state of the program? How would you explain it, the culture and the state of BYU basketball?
Yeah, I feel like we have a really strong culture amongst the players and the staff early on. We had an agency come in that does performance testing similar to what you would see at the NBA Combine. And the gentleman that runs that performance testing has been doing this for almost 20 years now, going around to different teams and colleges. And at the end of our session with him, we were together with them for about 2 hours. And at the end of the session in the circle up, he just stepped up and he said, guys, I really have to tell you, he said, in all the years doing this, I really feel like this is one of the more special sessions that I've had because of the closeness, the character of the guys. So we really feel like we have an opportunity to build something special here. Obviously, a lot of talent You know, for me, this is my first experience in college basketball, so I don't have a lot of formal experience on what the level of play is going to be like once we start the season, and then especially getting into the Big 12. But we definitely have the talent to compete, so I think that there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Cougar basketball fan, for sure.
All right, we'll finish with this. BYU right now is a unique mix of a solid core that is largely headlined by guys like Dallin Hall and Richie Saunders and Trevin Nell and Fush Traore, among others, Trey Stewart, another name in the mix there. But then you bring in some big time new pieces as well through the portal and through just your straight up recruiting. So with that mix in place, what do you feel like you know about this team that you've had roughly a few months to work around and with?
Yeah, I mean, it's really early on to say for sure what we know absolutely about the team, but I think what we feel like we have is a group of guys that we know are going to be competitive in the Big 12. And then we also have some really talented young players that could maybe even elevate that for us, right? So we feel like we have a pretty good understanding of what the floor might be. We're still trying to see what the ceiling might be. And, you know, everything that we're doing in the preseason to get these guys healthy, in shape, and just ready for a competitive basketball season will kind of determine what that looks like for us. But you know, like I said before, obviously a lot of things to be excited about for Cougar basketball, and so we're ready to get things going more formally here in the next few weeks for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jordan, we appreciate the insight into BYU basketball. Great to have you as part of the staff, and as a staff that's full of elite level coaches. We appreciate the time, man. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.